Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Amasid and today we are finally here. 3.15 has just been announced and we're going to talk about it. Now, in the past when I've done these videos, I've kind of like walked through sort of specific details and given like little tidbit opinions. I'm going to do it a little differently this time. I have some things I want to talk about. I'm not going to waste time going into the details. If you want to see the really nitty-gritty details, the video will be playing in the background of the announcement, but also you can check out, the video yourself. I'll link it in the description as well. Patch notes and stuff will be coming out. So it's really hard to make judgment calls on a lot of things, but I'm going to walk through sort of my thoughts and opinions. We're going to start with the general just expedition, just as a league mechanic, and then we'll get into sort of the meat of it, which is the Path of Exile difficulty changes, the Flask rework, etc. So let's go ahead and jump into the Expedition League. So it looks cool. It's kind of blighty. It reminds me of a blighty experience for some reason. And I mean, it's probably because those log books kind of function like blighted maps. I think it'll be fun. It's fun because Path of Exile at a base is a fun game, right? So it's stuff like this is never going to be like, oh my God, that was horrible for the most part. But it looks like it's fun. I'm not going to say I'm, unbelievably hyped for this league mechanic. It looks like it'll be cool. I mean, at its core, Red Path of Exile is killing monsters, opening chests, getting loot, etc. And it plays into that, and I think it'll be fun. The bartering system with the 3 people, like the negotiations, the 4 people, the crafting, whatever, the gambling of the rarity bases, that'll produce some interesting highlights, right? I think it'll be a fun league mechanic. I'm not going to waste too much time talking about it because really that's not the focus of the announcements that they were given. I will note a couple things on the skills that I thought looked cool. Were Explosive Concoction seems really cool. It kind of plays into the Flask discussion, which we'll get into, but I think that's a really cool idea. Summon Reaper looks awesome. I feel like I'm probably going to do Summon Reaper League start, assuming that the numbers don't say, hey, this actually sucks. But it looks very, very cool to me, and I'm excited to check that out. Mana Bond as well, another cool one. I'm not really into like the MOM playstyle, so that's probably not something I'm going to focus on, but those are the 3 that really... Forbidden Rite as well looked really, really cool. So those are the 4 that I'd written down as things that I thought looked interesting. So let's talk about the nerfs. Now, obviously, this is going to be a point of contention, and frankly, I have opinions one way and I have opinions the other way, and I'll get through that. But Chris said that they're basically were nerfing endgame damage by up to 40%. So, really, really powerful builds, I'm sure we'll see, stronger nerfs, and less powerful builds, we'll see less powerful nerfs. That's how this usually goes. I'm going to say, and Chris caveated this pretty specifically in the Q&A, if you watched that with Ziggy D, but basically he was like, 40% nerfs, he's like, it's really not as bad as it sounds. And I think he's probably right because they've announced nerfs consistently, right? There have been nerfs numerous times that GGG has said, this is getting nerfed hard or whatever. This is way too powerful, we nerfed it. And then it comes back and it's actually still totally fine. Chris basically said during the Q&A, hey, it's like up to 40% nerf is how it's being described. But it's really like when you work around it, it could end up being like a 2% nerf, which is, I feel like, for a given build, obviously it's not a 1-to-1. So I really think that before people get on, like, I'm sure a lot of people are going to love the nerfs, right? Because they want Path of Exile to be harder. And I kind of tend that way, but I also understand from like the perspective of, you don't want to, it's not exactly great to go into Cyrus, a boss that you've decimated league after league, and not be able to kill him because it just feels artificially difficulty increased. So I think the game will feel better. It's just going to take a little bit of adjustment, but I do think that the nerfs are justified. However, I will say as well that I think from a hype perspective, that's tricky, right? It's difficult to go into a league and say, we're nerfing a lot of things. There are buffs, and they allude, Chris talked about that specifically, and we'll see what those buffs look like. But he did say, things are getting buffed. He said melee is basically not getting as heavy of a nerf because of the support skill nerf. So I do think that, again, this is not going to be nearly as bad as it may have initially sounded during the announcement. I think this is going to be fine. The reality is I think it's going to be fine. My only point of concern is going to be, they said that they're sort of gradually rolling out campaign damage buffs. So basically the monsters are going to be harder in the campaign. I am unsure about this in combination with baseline damage nerfs. I think that somebody in the chat mentioned this, and I kind of tend to agree that the campaign, I have played through the campaign like 60 times. You know what I mean? Like I've done it so often. I don't feel the need to spend the time being like Act 1 is hard. That's just the reality. So I'm not sure about the campaign changes. I feel like nerfing the base skills makes sense, but and then I don't think it would have been as jarring of an adjustment to Path of Exile 2 campaign as they think it might have been. That's my thought. So the campaign, but damage increasing is going to be kind of interesting. I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference, right? I'm sure you'll still get through Act 1 in a reasonable amount of time. Like I know, for example, League Start usually takes me about 30 minutes to get through Act 1. I'm not some kind of ultra speed demon. I bet you it's not going to take that much longer. I think that, again, nerfs are always overstated, and they usually end up being not nearly as bad. If you're doing really, really end game content, like someone like myself, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I really don't think it's going to be a big deal. Obviously, I might be made to eat my words, but I am pretty confident that it's not going to be as bad as, as people will make it out to be. So before you get on some kind of negativity hate train, and by the way, that's not tolerated here. I don't want people just shitting on GGG or, shitting on this game for no reason. Like, constructive criticism always welcome, but don't be a jerk. So I think it'll be fine. I really do think it'll be fine. So that's all I'm going to say about that for now. And we'll just kind of see how things play out in the patch notes and the balance manifesto. Going into the Flask rework is great. I think it's a great thing. I think that if a lot of people were commenting that they wanted to play the piano Flask style. I don't know why. It's totally brainless. It's just like it's so pointless, right? They're not fun to play Flask like that, in my opinion. Intentional Flask usage is really good. I think that's a great thing. I think that some of the orbs they were talking about, so they talked about two types of orbs. There's instilling orbs and enkindling orbs. Instilling orbs, give you automatic Flask when it different triggers. One of the ones Chris alluded to was, when you trigger an adjacent Flask, it'll trigger. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on with the orbs. I think the Flask change was easily one of the most exciting things they announced in terms of this expansion, this league. Less piano is better. I am mildly concerned about Pathfinder, so if you're a Pathfinder main, question mark, I don't know. But I don't know. But I do think the Flask change overall is going to be good for the game, and frankly, I feel like that's an objective thing. Like if you want to play piano, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I think that the reality is that this is a good thing. So then I'd written down a couple of other small things here. Is that the stack size limited? They recognize the fact that people are clicking too much, so their breach splinters are going to be consolidated stacks. I'm assuming that applies to things like Parandus coins as well, which we're sometimes stacking in smaller ones. So that's a cool thing. But overall, I am very excited for this expansion. I am optimistic that the nerfs are not going to be as bad as they might have sounded at the outset. It was a little grim, that the announcement video, but the QA honestly clarified it. Chris said it really, really well, that this is like very intentional. They're not just nerfing for the sake of nerfing. He said, we can buff all day long and be the most popular game out there, but the game will die. And I think that's 100% true. The reality is that you have to be conscientious of how powerful your skills are on power creep, and they very much are. And I'm glad that they're sort of doing this now. I really think it'll be fine. I think this expansion is gonna be really fun. I'm very, very hyped to play. Don't get me wrong. I'm very, very hyped. So anyway, I'm gonna keep this video kind of short, but what are your guys' opinions? What are your thoughts? Again, be respectful in your comments. If you're just here to just trash talk all day long, you don't have a place here. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.